Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I call this meeting to order. Welcome to this evening's City Council regular meeting. Would you please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance?
O Lord, help us to see beyond the narrow limits of our words and deeds, so that we may fully do your will. Grant us the patience to listen, the ability to deliberate, and the wisdom to make decisions that are fair and pleasing in your sight. Help us to remember our goal is not to control, but to serve the people. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Member Olson?
Present.
Member Barentine?
Present.
Member Cuesta?
Present.
Member Martinez?
Present.
Member Wink?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell?
Present.
6 council members present.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 5, consideration of minutes of the previous meeting. I would entertain a motion for the minutes of the regular City Council meeting for May 21st, 2018.
I move to approve the City Council regular meetings of May 21st.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Seeing none, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 6 ayes.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 5B, District 1 City Council swearing in. Will the City Clerk please announce the status of the election?
Yes, ma'am. Based on the official election results provided by Arapahoe County for the special municipal election held on May 22nd, 2018, the newly elected council member for District 1 is Othoniel Sierra.
Thank you. Council will make a determination of the election and qualifications of its membership. Do I entertain a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 6 ayes.
Thank you. I would like to ask the newly elected council member, Othoniel Sierra, to come forward, and also the Honorable Associate Judge Vincent Atencio for the swearing-in ceremony. Good evening.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Othoniel Sierra, solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Colorado, and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Englewood, Colorado, and that I will, to the best of my ability, faithfully perform the duties of the office as City Council member during my continuance therein. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard, and we are going to take a recess until 8 o'clock. You're invited to the community room. Oh, to the back for refreshments and getting to know the new city council member. And then we will resume in here at 8 o'clock. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
We're so excited to have you.
Yes, excited to be on.
Let's do this. Oh, yeah.
someone else that oh, you're on the phone. I think they're It's an invisible ink. Like this? Yes. And then it's and then all of a sudden it appears.
Is that your job?
Yeah. Yeah, the musical chairs thing. Then we gotta so wait, do we have to take another break? Another 20-minute break?
What was funny is how
How are you doing, Maureen? Yes, Maureen White. Thanks for your... I haven't, but I have your note still from the other day. Tuesdays are my good... Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. I was in the dentist chair for 6 hours. Unbelievable. Yeah. Well, the thing that made it all worse is they didn't rectify what we were working on. So I went out and, oh no, I wouldn't do that. And my dentist is very competent. I love them and I've gone to them for many years. It's just, you know, it was just one of those things. Everything went wrong. So, but I will. I have an ongoing list and it is there. The ADU. Oh yes. Oh yes. There's, I think that's what we said the other night, right? One more piece is going to happen before public hearing. I can't remember at this second. Would you like me to let you know when because I know I have it somewhere. I just, let me actually look right here. Can have the time. Yep. Is that May 15th we had the town hall? One that we went at and you spoke? Okay. Let me make sure I have your... I don't think I have your email address. Uh-huh. Oh, I see. Just M and then 3 C's and white. I do. They are the 3rd week of every month. I usually try and do 2 of them, and I've been, well, I do the Thursday in the evening at the Bob, and then the Saturday morning. It's just the last couple of times the speaker I've invited has been unable to do both the Thursday and the Saturday, so I've canceled those, but yes, I'm surprised you're not. Let me add it on this now. Yeah, a lot of people have been asking me, and I feel maybe I need to do something more public to get the right people. Oh, I firmly believe that. No, you can't. I can't have a conversation. You have to speak in this weird way, and it's disjointed. And so, Wing Talk, Maureen. I'm gonna add you and see if it says. Here's your. That email doesn't look familiar, actually. Yeah. Nope, it's not in you. Okay, now you're on the list. Thank you. Yep. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. 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 Which one did you come to? It was the... Yeah. With Brooke Bell. Oh, yeah. I think he... And then out. Yeah. Yeah, I think he... Yeah. I don't know if the mic's here. But thanks, Maureen. Yes, but I don't think we resolved who's in it. Yeah, I feel like that'd be, okay. Good. Yep.
The reason why you do it like this,
We can, yep. Yep. Perfect.
You can put whatever you want. No, I can't. No. Pardon somebody.
so how are you doing?
Pretty good. Good. Hanging in there. Busy. Oh, this week is crazy.
Yeah, well, and then you got board information.
Good.
Trying to figure out if I should. So I wasn't going to Durango, right? So we're trying to find figure out so anyway, I'm going to be here. When is that? Thursday. Yeah, I think, yeah.
No, I think there's or you probably should like, oh, it's just an IT guy. Wait, no, he actually has it. Let it slide.
Yeah, okay, yes, and I do. I think I should. I'm not so sure. Yeah, for them.
Everyone else is
I'm kind of glad that I'm going to.
no kidding. No kidding.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
It's an okay second choice.
Yeah, we may go on the phone.
We should.
On a vacation.
There's two microphones.
Yeah, we were supposed to go to Durango,
I could go this way.
and it got canceled because of the fire.
Yeah.
So,
I could drop one mic and I still have the other one.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You can drop it twice.
I saw it in, actually it was in the New York Times.
ooh, wow. Uh-huh.
I was gonna say, should I bring out my iPad?
If the council members will take their seats, we'll get started. Sorry. I call this meeting back to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Member Sierra,
Present.
Member Olson,
Present, and welcome back, everyone.
Member Barentine,
Present.
Member Cuesta,
Present.
Member Martinez,
Present.
Member Wink,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Present.
All 7 present.
There is a quorum present, and so we will move on. I will open the floor for nominations for mayor. Councilmember Martinez.
I would like to nominate Councilmember Olson for mayor.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that Councilmember Olson be the mayor. So is there any discussion? Councilmember Martinez.
I would just like to say the reason I'm nominating Councilmember Olson is she's very logical and patient, and I think her tenure on council has been really helpful and to us newer members, and so that is why I am nominating her.
Okay. Councilmember Barentine.
I appreciate the nomination for one of our most senior member on council to go ahead and take this position. I will support her going in for mayor with some concerns over the last 10 years that Councilmember Olson has been on council. We have had some issues with the community, like selling Depot Park before a vote could go in, or some of the budget issues, some of the reduction in time for members to be able to speak. And I hope that the last 10 years has brought her to a position where she can go ahead and show that leadership and tolerance for diverse opinions and conversation and discussion, so that we can move forward and show some good leadership for this council. And with that caveat, I will be supporting the member.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 7 ayes.
Thank you, and thank you to all of the members up here for your support. I appreciate it. And now we move on to the next item, which is the Mayor Pro Tem decision and calls for nomination.
I would like to nominate Member Martinez for Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, is there a second? Ms. Barentine?
Oh, I was just trying to get a point of clarification while we're doing the Mayor Pro Tem.
I believe that that's what we were supposed to do next.
I'm not sure. Just because something is on the agenda doesn't
New
mean-
mayor assumes the chair and calls for nominations of the Mayor Pro Tem. I believe that when there's a change in City Council, that there is a next move of then revoting for.
Okay. I would disagree that that's, I mean, the Mayor Pro Tem was duly elected unanimously in November as per our process, and I'm confused that we're doing this. And I think that the Mayor Pro Tem has done a beautiful job in handling the situation since November when she was given that position. So I'm confused why we're doing it.
So I guess the question is, at that time we had 4 members that are currently on the council, so it seems to me that having the full 7 being in support of the leadership is the right way to move, but what are the interests of the other members? I forgot about these. Councilmember Wink.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe that now that, yes, at the time when Member Russell was nominated as Mayor Pro Tem, we weren't a full council, and now we are a full council with a new mayor presiding. I think it's only fair. It's part of why we decided as a council to wait until our 7th member was even here to make these decisions for Mayor Pro Tem. I'm not confused, and I'm confused at the confusion, frankly.
City Clerk, did we have a second on the nomination? No, we didn't. Okay. We really probably should do that and have a discussion. Or do you want, if no one's going to second it, then we need to move on.
I'll second the nomination for Ms. Martinez.
All right. Thank you. Now we can have a discussion. Councilmember Cuesta.
Thank you, Mayor Olson. I am going to stick with Mayor Pro Tem Russell. I think she's done an admirable job as well. And we have many folks up here that would be good mayors or Mayor Pro Tems. I exclude myself from that category. But for the time being, I've really liked the functionality that she has brought. I think she's done a very good job, and I will be sticking with Mayor Pro Tem Russell. Thank you.
Are you making a second?
I am not seconding. I thought it was open to discussion.
Not a second, but do you want to make do you want to make a motion to actually have a second candidate, or?
I believe if this motion to put in Councilmember Martinez does not pass, and by default Mayor Pro Tem Russell would remain in that position.
Okay. Councilmember Barentine.
I'm not sure whether by default that the way that you guys are handling this, that's what would happen. So if that's what's necessary, then I'll go ahead and make the motion for Mayor Pro Tem Russell to remain as Mayor Pro Tem as she was elected last November. I think that the comments that Councilmember Quest has made are legitimate. I think that the overwhelming comments being made that something of being a divided council, that we want to make sure that we have representations from all of council, and I think that would be a good idea to not upset the leadership that we've already had since November. So I would agree with Councilmember Questa, but I'll make the motion for for Mayor Pro Tem Russell to remain Mayor Pro Tem Russell as well.
Any other comments?
If I'd have a second.
Member Sierra, I just realized you don't have an actual name thing up here yet, so that's why I keep looking at this going, why is this on? Member Sierra.
No, I appreciate it. I want to say, obviously, over the past couple years, I've spoken to just about everybody here on council, and I really like my conversations that I've had with not only with Councilperson Martinez, but also Councilperson Russell. In terms of seconding Ms. Martinez, I actually do like the job that Ms. Russell has done over the past 6 months. So I'm not sure if the change is really needed at this point, but obviously I'll leave it up to council to decide what the next steps are for Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cuesta?
You bet. And just getting back to the procedural steps, so we have a motion and a second for Councilmember Martinez, and we have a motion for Mayor Pro Tem Russell to stay in that position. So we have a motion in a motion, and now we're waiting on a second.
So I think perhaps, this is a good question. So I think one of the problems with this is that we have a policy that is supposed to take nominations that we haven't always followed this way, and then we're supposed to do a secret ballot, which if there are more than one. So I don't know if we have anything on this that you could tell us regarding what the policy says. Of course, policy isn't law, so we can determine. It's not the same as the charter.
So under council policy, it does show that presiding officers would be elected by secret ballot from the members of City Council. We've done it both ways, but under policy and I did take copies of the policy, and we are prepared to do that if that's how you would like to move forward.
Councilmember Barentine.
I appreciate that. It's kind of weird because we've done it openly and transparent for the public, and they have a right to know who we are supporting so that they know whether they want to continue to support us or not. I'm not sure whether having the motion and the second or even putting the Mayor Pro Tem on the agenda was proper, but you've been on this council for over 10 years, so you're our leadership now. Go ahead.
And I have to admit that every 2 years we've done it just a little bit differently. And have never, the first time I was on, we did it by secret ballot, and then all came together and went with whoever won the secret ballot. And we have not always done it that way, but we have in the last few years not done it that way. So I'm just asking for the policy. If we want to follow that, if we want to do it the way we did it in November, that is fine too. Councilmember Wink.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like us to follow policy and to establish a consistency that can be anticipated moving forward. So I believe we should follow policy.
Okay.
Good point of clarification. What do you mean by follow policy? Which one?
The policy that the City Clerk just read.
Which was? What part of the policy are you looking for us to follow? Is it the secret ballot part?
The nomination by secret ballot.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
So for everyone, the city clerk is handing around, I believe, is this
that's a copy of the policy.
this is the policy,
And we would like to
which
see
you
it
just
or
read.
to try to
And the
understand
yellow
it better.
highlights are what pertain to tonight?
Yep.
So I I guess at this point, we would have to decide whether or not we're going to go by this, which I was just following along, or whether we ought to do something different. Oh, Member, it's my name, Russell.
I think we've already violated the policy in our election of the mayor if we're changing policy in the middle of that. We should have done the mayor by secret ballot also.
Ballot, yeah. Mayor Martinez, Member Martinez.
Thank you. I was under the impression that just it was a procedural thing. When we select a new mayor, we also select a new pro tem. I think Mayor Pro Tem was doing a fine job when she was Mayor Pro Tem, so that's nothing negative about you. But I do also think the secret ballot is kind of antiquated. Since I've been on council, we've never followed that. I don't think that that is in the interest of the community, so I would prefer not to do it by secret ballot if we choose to do so.
Okay, great. Could I ask that the city manager, if you would put it on one of our further study sessions, that we change the policy for this? We have a short discussion of it, but come up with whatever we want. It may be that we need to look at this entire document to determine how we're going to go about it. I know we've done this once already, but we maybe need to go back to it. So at this point, how do you want to proceed? Councilmember Barentine.
To Council, the Mayor Pro Tem's comment, we've already just violated it. And so I don't know if we're going to change it, whether we need a vote of council. I suppose you should ask the city attorney, but I don't know.
Okay.
Otherwise, then we would have to redo the vote for the mayor to be consistent, as Councilmember Wink brought up with the policies and procedures. So we need to figure out what we're doing.
Councilmember Wink.
What happened is we elected a mayor, and now things are different. So let's look at things how they were. We have a new mayor, and we're looking toward our city in the view of her leadership. She wasn't mayor when we took this decision before.
Member Cuesta.
I really,
sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry.
And I don't want to parse words too much, but the language regarding the secret ballot specifically addresses the second meeting in November. We are not at the second meeting in November, so there might be some wiggle room there that we do it in public this evening.
But that we do it consistently, I guess.
Right. Any other comments? City Attorney, could we ask you for any advice on this?
The election for mayor was uncontested. There was only one nomination, so there was no need for a secret ballot. At this point, while you've made your nominations by motion, you have two persons who are currently nominated for the role. So my opinion is that when you have more than one person nominated, your policy says that you vote by secret ballot. Keep in mind, it's a policy, and you've had, based on just the set of facts since November, you've had to make some other types of decisions. Councilmember Cuesta pointed out that it says that the mayor will be elected at the second meeting in November, and as a group, you decided that you wanted to wait until you had a full 7 members to elect a mayor. So, as a body, you can decide to follow your policy, or you can decide not to. If you decide not to, though, I am pleased that you directed staff to look at that language, because the new policy manual coming back does not change this language.
Yeah, for the public, just so you know that we went through the policy manual over the last several months, and this item was in there and was not changed. Thank you, City Attorney. I guess what I would suggest is that, and then I'll come back to you, Councilmember Barentine, is that we would do a secret ballot at this point. That's my suggestion, and then go with whoever won as a known mayor pro tem. Councilmember Barentine.
Well, contested or not contested, we've been doing it this way for quite some time. So I would make a motion that we go ahead and forego the secret ballot and go ahead and let this be a public vote.
Second.
All right, discussion. You were moving to do that. And you're seconding it. Is there any discussion? It's about the policy, whether or not we're going to follow secret ballot when there's a contested race. Mr. Cuesta.
Thank you. I'm bogging this down with procedure, I know. But don't we have 2 open motions on who would be pro tem? And now we have a third motion on a secret ballot or not?
We do. I think what we did is I took nominations for Mayor Pro Tem. And
Sure.
2 were done and seconded, so we have 2 candidates.
Actually, we need a second on the second motion for Mayor Pro Tem Russell to remain Mayor Pro Tem. We do need a second on that.
Member Cuesta?
Thank you, Mayor Russell. And I will second, thank you, Mayor Olson. And I will second Mayor Pro Tem Russell to remain Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, so we at least have we have a motion, 2 motions and 2 seconds. One for Councilmember Martinez and one for Mayor Pro Tem to remain Russell to remain Pro Tem.
Councilmember Russell?
According to Bob's Rules of Order, can't we only have 1 motion on the floor at a time?
Yes. However, I think I think because some of you were trying to follow the policy and some of you were following past practices, there was some confusion about the process. When the mayor called for, I don't know if you said nominations. I wasn't, when she called for nominations, I think the response back was just to go to the motion because that was past practice. But I think the mayor called for nominations. So as I was watching what was going on, while the members said motion, the mayor asked for nominations. So I think what you actually have are 2 nominations with 2 seconds. So I think you have 2 persons who are currently running for your position. And now the actual motion is Councilmember Barentine's motion on the table, which is to not follow this policy and to move forward with an open election, an open vote. That's how I'm interpreting what actually is going on up there.
I would just correct that, and I just asked for it to be suspended. I think is the proper language for us to suspend that policy for this vote due to the fact that we haven't followed it for some time. So
Appreciate that. I also want to say that when you made your statement, it was believed by Councilmember Russell that you were making a motion and she seconded it. I didn't call for a second or anything. You just seconded it, so that's what sort of started us down this road. And but I think it's okay. I think we're having a conversation about something that's difficult to figure out because we're trying to follow the policy. And there are 2 nominations for Mayor Pro Tem. It's Member Martinez.
Oh, I was just going to say, since in my experience on council, we would just take them one at a time, so we didn't run into this kind of stickiness. But we have the stickiness, so now let's go for it.
Thank you. And I think one of the reasons why there is 2 I think we have not followed the policy, which allows for us to have a couple of members and vote by secret ballot so that we can then decide with 1 vote. That's how we did it the first 2 times that I did it when I was on council, and then you don't have any embarrassment from anyone. It's whatever the number was is whoever the city clerk reads, and that's it, and that's the person. So then we vote on that person, and you can decide to vote publicly or yes or no. That's what we did in the past. That hasn't been followed in the last 2 or 3 times we've done it. We have had a couple of times where people have nominated a second person, and rather than vote on them together, they were voted one by one, I'm sure that's why the policy was set this way, so not be embarrassing or difficult at that point. So, Councilmember Barentine, and then
I have a motion on the floor, and it's been seconded to go ahead and suspend the policy so that we can vote publicly, transparent, so that people know, our constituents know who we're voting for leadership. And I have a second. So I'm calling the question, if we could.
I'm going to ask the city clerk about can we do that with 2 different things being up, 2 different motions being up? City attorney maybe needs to weigh in.
Yeah, I would love some assistance on this.
Okay.
If I could just, for a point of information, I believe what the city attorney already said was that we had 2 nominations on the floor, and the only motion that's actually on the floor is my motion to go ahead and suspend the policy to do a secret ballot do it public so that we have the transparency with our constituency. And that's the only motion currently on the floor.
That's the only real motion. Thank you. I appreciate the clarification. So, any discussion? Vote to suspend the rules is a yes. Vote not to suspend the rules is a no.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show. 5 ayes and 2 nays, the 2 nays being Mayor Pro Tem Russell and Councilmember Wink.
I don't think that's totally correct.
No, it isn't. It's Wink and Olson.
Oh,
Okay.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I forgot to change my voting panel. I was waiting for seating arrangements.
I'm looking up here.
Excuse me. 5 ayes and 2 nays, the 2 nays being Mayor Olson and Councilmember Wink.
Thank you. All right. Then we will move on to the initial call for Pro Tem, and then this will have to go one by one, right? So there are 2 nominations. We'll take the first one. So all for Martinez, please vote yes. Those opposing, no.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show. 3 ayes and 2 nays. The 2 nays being Member Sierra. I'm sorry, 4 nays. Sorry, I have to change my voting panel.
I know.
This is a bit challenging, so bear with me. So the nays are Councilmember Sierra, Councilmember Russell, Councilmember Barentine, and Councilmember Cuesta.
Right. Great. Vote is carried. Our new mayor, our continuing Mayor Pro Tem is Mayor Pro Tem Rita Russell. Thank you. Right, our next agenda item is to determine permanent seating assignments by seniority. So our 3 most senior, actually, yeah, they are 3 senior, is Member Barentine, Member Martinez, and Member Russell. So the 3 of you could decide if you want to move from where you are, if you want to stay where you are.
I will stay where I am.
I'm fine right here.
All right.
I'm fine right here also.
Then the second 2 would be Member Cuesta and Member Wink. Are you wanting to move?
Councilmember Wink, I'll stay as well. Thank you.
And Member Sierra, you are where you are.
Thank you.
All right. I think we need to take a short break in order for us to rearrange names and everything so that our city...
So that I can read votes accurately? Yes,
thank you. So we'll take about a 5-minute recess and come back.
Where are you? I like this side. I like being on the right side.
Yeah, yeah. And I, yeah. And I will need your help, just like I tried to help you. when things weren't quite, it's hard to do this, I know it is. Hard to figure out what you're doing when. What's next? It's a lot easier to sit into the second seat than it is in the first.
Everybody else has their name. Good day.
They couldn't change the name tags before we have this decision.
What do you mean? Where they put them?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't expect, I knew that was wrong. I didn't know that was wrong. And I knew this was weird because there was this light going on, but there's no name by it. I thought, what is this? And then you're up here. So,
Yeah, you pull up any PDFs that are highlighted.
I was going to ask you.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you write text in here? So if I go in here, what it looks like is, let's see here.
Well, I mean, just so we
So the next one.
Oh, so it's
So if I want to add any notes here, looks like I could just do that.
Right and draw with your finger.
I didn't want to do that. Maybe it's that one. Oh, no, there we go. Create a note.
You know, you probably like write in an area and then you do a comment.
And then do I save it or?
I think it just gets saved.
Yep, there we go.
Then then you either, probably after you're done, you email it to yourself or
Is it on now?
bottom.
Oh, there we go. Okay, cool.
Or to whatever.
All right,
you
yeah.
can have a folder stored with comments on
Yeah, exactly.
different months, so
Okay.
that way you can go back and look at it.
All right, easy. Perfect, man. Appreciate it.
Why yours is rolled up like that?
I have no idea.
It's the angle?
It's new.
Yeah, it's just because it's new. Just have to sort of break it in.
That's why I got my pen right here.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, probably after a while it'll get old. So
They're all on now.
yeah, they're on.
Oh, everybody has to turn them off. That's right.
Oh, and I don't know why. I mean, there was just a note, sticky note on there when, oh, right here it is.
I hope he's okay.
Good observation there, Mark.
I don't know.
I didn't have any.
Okay, good, because I will not know what to say.
Oh, you busted out the ladder.
The only thing that gave me a clue was when we were talking about studies.
Had to be them, not for a while. There were Chalmers left.
Didn't he, what? And, but
We're all green. There we go. All right, let's resume the meeting.
Okay.
Next on our agenda is recognition of family and or guests of the newly elected member of City Council. So, Member Sierra, if you have anyone here you'd like to acknowledge or anything else, this is your time.
No, I appreciate it. No, obviously I want to thank the voters and the citizens within District 1 for allowing me the opportunity to represent them here on council. I made a lot of great friends, met a lot of neighbors that I hadn't met over the past, 8-9 years that I've been living in Inglewood during this entire process. So I've been really thankful for just taking a plunge and making this, just taking the chance to run for council. So really appreciate everybody and just the thoughts and the support over the last 5-6 months. So thank you very much. I'm not much for words, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're glad to meet your family and friends here.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is a recognition of scheduled public comment. And for those of you that see the agenda, Mr. Doug Cohen is not here this evening, so we'll move on to agenda item 7, which is recognition of unscheduled public comment. Speakers have signed up for this ahead of time. This is an opportunity for the public to address City Council. There is an expectation that the presentation will be conducted in a respectful manner, and then Council may ask questions for clarification, but there will be no dialogue. Please limit your presentations to 3 minutes. First up, we have Mr. Jerry Walker. All right.
I don't know if
you need to
everybody in the
move.
audience heard that if you can't see the screen, that's the request he made, I guess. You might want to speak a little.
Mr. Walker, can you give us your name and address?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Jerry Walker, 4180 South Pearl Street, Englewood, Colorado.
Thank you. I can hear you better.
Mayor Olson, City Council, fellow citizens. I'm sorry, I'm just napping back there. I want to take you back in time a couple of weeks to May 7th. And what we're going to look at is a video of some motions from City Council. Actually, the motion was going to be for an executive session. Do you have the sound on that?
Unfortunately, we weren't prepared for this presentation, so we may have to skip the video if it's not able to come up.
Okay, just a little bit further. Now, in that bit of, I hope you could hear it. Mayor Pro Tem Rita Russell has made a motion to have an executive session, and she's made a proper motion. In a proper motion, she's given all the information of what's going to be discussed and what is not going to be discussed in an open session. She will call for a second on that motion. I will tell you before we start, there is no second on that motion. Okay, stop it right there.
Mr. Walker, your time is almost up.
Well, I understand that. So I'll be extremely brief. I'll ask you for an extra few minutes because it's taken a while to get this whole thing started here.
Can I ask you to hold for a second? Is it the pleasure of the council to give him extra time, given that he was trying to show a video?
Yes. Are you asking us to vote?
I'm asking just for
Yes.
a nod of some sort. Yes, yes. Anybody opposed? Okay, go ahead.
Councilman Olson just did not second that motion. That motion had no second, so it died. Councilman Olson immediately moved for an executive session. And that was seconded, and now the council will vote to go to that executive session. However, Councilman Olson's motion is an improper motion because it did not contain all the facts necessary to open an executive session. The first motion actually died because there was no second. The second motion did not contain the body to the public of the topic for discussion in the executive session, including specific citation to the provision of the subsection 4, authorizing the body to meet in an executive session, and identification of the particular matter to be discussed in as much detail as possible without compromising the purpose for which the executive session is authorized. That is Colorado Revised Statute 24-6-402, parentheses 4, or Bob's Rules of Order. The motion for executive session must include the citation to the Colorado Revised Statute, subsection authorizing session, and a brief description of subject matter. Therefore, that executive session was an improper executive session. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Next up is Mr. Nathan Hoag.
Good evening, Council. My name is Nathan Hoag. I live at 3198 South Bannock Street. I would like to offer an update on the work of Change the Trend Network. Just as a reminder, Change the Trend is a collaborative effort between multiple agencies around Inglewood that exist to mobilize and equip the community to constructively engage the issue of homelessness. At the moment, the network has three primary ongoing areas of work. First, we are continuing to scale our resource navigation program. We're happy to report that our first participant in the program is both housed and employed. Additionally, we have been developing relationships with organizations throughout Inglewood and surrounding Denver metro area in order to build a pool of support for folks seeking to move out of homelessness. If anybody in your individual districts or networks are interested in joining the effort to offer focused support to folks on the streets via membership and mentorship, please let us know. Second, we are in the planning phase for an upcoming forum on June 27th. This event will be the second one hosted by the network. We are planning to utilize a participatory structure in order to provide attendees the opportunity to engage in structured conversation about homelessness from a variety of angles, as well as offer the opportunity to give ideas and feedback in an organized fashion. The majority of the event will consist of a rotation of roundtable discussions regarding the issue. The event will be held here at the Civic Center and begin in Hampden Hall. And it will last from 6:30 to 8 p.m. You're all invited. We'd love to see you there for that. Third, we are continuing to develop a storage space program as an additional resource for participants in the resource navigation program. We are in conversation with several agencies around the city who are interested in hosting 1 to 3 bins or lockers on their property in order to offer storage space while folks seek employment or navigate other resources. We plan to launch this program by the end of September. Finally, we'd like to express our deep thankfulness for the support of our city government in this effort. We recognize your willingness to engage this issue during a recent study session and would like to express gratitude for this proactive approach to seeking constructive pathways of engagement. We also recognize that homelessness is an issue with multidimensional effects on a community. Its ramifications are felt in the life of the business owner struggling with folks loitering on the property, the resident who is unsure how to strike up a conversation with the person who camps in the neighborhood park, the emergency room nurse who is overwhelmed by patients experiencing homelessness, the police officer fielding multiple calls per day related to homelessness, and the local congregant that seeks to be hospitable to the least of these in their neighborhood. Change the Trend recognizes the validity of all these experiences and believes that the best, most promising pathway to mitigation of these difficulties is to give focused attention to the task of breaking the barriers between homelessness and stability in the lives of our friends on the streets. When such a task is done, not only are our homeless neighbors lifted out of poverty, but all these periphery challenges are reduced as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hoag. Anyone have a question for Mr. Hoag? Councilmember Martinez?
Thank you for coming. You said it was June 27th?
June 27th, that's all right.
6 o'clock?
6:30 to 8 o'clock.
Thank you.
Councilmember Barentine.
That's correct. Yeah.
Sorry, Councilmember Barentine.
Your organization still has the sergeant from the impact team on it as well?
That's correct.
Okay. Are you kept up to date with all of the issues that are going on in the city with any homeless? The recent death we had, the suicide, the kind of the several arrests that have been made, especially in our business district downtown. Is your committee kept up to date on that? How often are you updated? Are you updated every Thursday at your meeting?
Every Thursday when Sergeant McGrath is there. If Tony's there, Tony Arnoldi, and he's not there, she'll update us as well.
So at this upcoming meeting, we'll hear some of the issues and some other conversation regarding those as well, or are you planning on that?
Here at the Civic Center?
Yeah.
Then, that will be part of the discussion, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Seeing no one else, thank you.
Sure.
Right, we have time for council response, public comment, to public comments. Councilmember Russell. Mayor Pro Tem Russell, sorry.
I would like to thank both speakers for coming forward. And to be real honest, Mr. Walker, in watching that, I would take full responsibility for not following through on the second because I asked for it and did not even realize that I had not taken a second but entertained another motion. So I would take responsibility for that.
All right, Councilmember Barentine, thank you.
I hope Doug is listening somewhere and that he is sorely missed for his historic preservation conversation that we got cheated out of tonight. So hopefully he's preparing an even more special thing for us. To Nathan Hoeg, I appreciate that you guys are moving forward, and I hope that you've heard some of the concerns from the community on where change the trend was going or not going, or conversations that were not being had, so that we can kind of get away from the finger wagging kind of feel from it and really start to engage this community on the issues that they're dealing with. So I'm looking forward to that meeting. And to Mr. Walker, I think in the end, our staff needs to make sure that we're on task with that. So the city attorney shares some responsibility with that as well. I know that things can get confusing up here as in the first few minutes, our new mayor has already found out. So, but I do appreciate one way or the other, regardless of who is responsible for making that happen. It has to happen in order for it to be a legal executive session, as we have dealt with so many issues over the years about openness and transparency and trying to make sure that we're staying on track, and sometimes it does fall through the cracks. But when it falls through the cracks, you are correct. It still makes it not a legal meeting. Aside from that, there was already a protest on the meeting itself for the content of it, and that was expressed, and a vote was taken last meeting, I think 2-3, to go ahead and make that meeting public because of some of those very issues. There are steps and procedures that can be taken. I don't know what you're going to do, but that is up to you. There's remedies for those missteps, regardless of how they happen. So we'll see what happens. Thank you very much for everybody coming, and congratulations again to our new council member. It was a nice reception, and I hope you all enjoyed it.
Thank you. I appreciate both Mr. Walker and Mr. Hoeg coming forward tonight. I'm really looking forward to the Change the Trend event that is in June, and hope that many of you come out. They have a great plan with a number of different tables that will address different issues and allow for open conversation about that particular issue. Mr. Walker, I will commit to you that we will be working on how do we actually make sure that we have the wording up here. It's obviously true that already it's hard to do, and I remember when Mayor Pro Tem Russell sat over here and I sat next to her and once in a while whispered, and you got to do it that way, because it is hard to be the one right here. So much easier to be the one sitting next to us. I'm sure we'll find out over time here. Appreciate it. Moving on to agenda number 8, we have no communications, proclamations, or appointments. Agenda item number 9, consent agenda items. Would anybody be willing to move on those? Make a motion?
I move to approve consent agenda items 9A.
9A, there is not anything.
And 9B, excuse me. Yep.
9B1.
9B1.
Right, so we have a second to approve approval of ordinances on second reading, CB 16, Arapahoe County Collaborative Transportation Forum Agreement. Is there any? Right, we take a vote. All in favor?
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 7 ayes.
Thank you. Agenda item 10 is public hearing, and we have nothing there. Our 11th item is ordinances, resolutions, and motions. The approval of the ordinance on first reading, agenda item A1, CB 15 IGA with Arapahoe for City BG and Home Program. The CB 15 is an intergovernmental cooperation agreement between the city and Arapahoe County. Staff recommends council approve a bill for ordinance authorizing the execution of a 3-year intergovernmental cooperation agreement, IGA, between Arapahoe County and the City of Englewood relating to the conduct of community development block grants, known as CDBG, in the Home Investment Partnership Home Programs for Program Grants 2019 to 2021. Our Staff Director of Community Development, Brad Power, is here to present.
Good evening, Mayor, members of Council. I apologize for the glass of water and for my voice. It's been a particularly challenging allergy season for some of us. So if my voice cuts out, I apologize.
Glad you're still here.
I want to briefly reintroduce this concept and this agenda item from 2 weeks ago. We're asking you to authorize a 3-year intergovernmental agreement with Arapahoe County to allow Englewood to continue to participate in the community development block grant and home grant programs. The county's in the process of requalifying as an urban county, which gives us the opportunity to participate in the next 3-year period. As I indicated 2 weeks ago, the majority of Englewood's grant funds are dedicated to the Energy Efficiency Englewood program, which helps out eligible homeowners in Englewood with primarily energy efficiency and energy improvements to their homes. I won't belabor the point because I can already feel my voice going because of the pollen. I will just say that this program, in terms of the E3 program for these eligible homeowners, has been in place since 2010. And over that period of time, we've helped approximately 115 homeowners complete these improvements in the community. And this has proven to be a sustained and popular program because we have about 20 people on the current waiting list for our program this year. We do have a couple people that I'll introduce in a moment, but I did want to make one point of clarification. It doesn't materially impact the IGA whatsoever. It's just in terms of the funding breakdown. We actually have about $115,000 that is dedicated to the energy efficiency program, and there's an additional $20,000 that goes for the House of Hope, and they're supporting their staffing, and that's made directly from Arapahoe County to that agency. I do want to introduce and recognize a couple of people here this evening. There were some questions at the tail end of the introduction of this topic 2 weeks ago about the impact of some of the rules that the rulemaking associated with the implications of the Fair Housing Act related to the expenditure of community development block grant funds. So we have a couple people who are far more expert than I that can address any issues and questions that you may have around the rulemaking relative to these types of programs and expenditures. They are Linda Haley, who's Division Manager of Housing and Community Development Services for Arapahoe County, and Don Clemmy, who is the Community Resource Director, also with Arapahoe County. And with that, I'll conclude my remarks.
All right. Are you suggesting that they're here in the audience to answer questions?
That is correct.
Okay. Are there any questions before we have a motion? Councilmember Barentine.
You have them here. You've made it clear that they're the experts. If you want to have them come forward, I can ask them.
I would invite them to come forward. Yes, of course.
Thank you for being here, and if you can give us your names again and your roles, and council may have questions for you. Thank you.
Linda Haley, Housing and Community Development Division Manager. Good evening. My name is Don Clemmy, and I'm the Community Resources Department Director for Arapahoe County Government.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Barentine, did you have a question for them in particular?
It's my understanding, part of the questions that got asked before, in the previous 2 years for this, was that the affirmatively furthering fair housing and its definition or expansion of the definition of what that meant from its 1969, 68, 60-something inclusion in all of that. But its current recent broadening of the definition had resulted in some lawsuits in that, as it states in the contract we have before us, that these are, once we accept these funds, these are incumbent for us to make sure that it's all of our jurisdiction that it applies to. And that's where the lawsuits have come forward. When I asked about any of the lawsuits or the problems with affirmatively fair housing, that's when they decided to go ahead and wait and apparently get some people that knew more about it, since they were unable to answer those questions. That has to do with the problems that happened in Castle Rock and Douglas County turning it down. So that's the kind of information that I've gotten and haven't really had it answered. I have found out recently that the affirmatively furthering fair housing has been suspended currently, but that's not it's not suspended in our contract, so it is still of an issue to me, and how you guys are handling that.
So the affirmatively furthering fair housing rule,
if you could step, thank you.
Has been suspended. That was filed in the Federal Register on January 5th of 2018. There are still fair housing rules that apply to all of us and have since 1968. Mm-hmm. The AFFH and the tool, the AFH, are just a different way of measuring housing. So we used to do analysis of impediments to fair housing choice, which was part of every 5-year consolidated plan. Rather than doing that particular AI, as we called it, we now have to do the affirmatively furthering fair housing toolkit. Almost the same information, we're gathering that information. It's just looking at the community as a whole to see whether there are, where the housing needs are. There's nothing that changes any zoning or codes or anything that would make Englewood have to do something different, that would make you have to plunk down affordable housing in the middle of, a single-family home zoned area. It is simply looking at and understanding the housing needs in the community.
Mm-hmm. That is exactly what I understand has happened in the lawsuits previously, is that they have expected them to plunk down low-income housing in the middle of residential areas. Those are lawsuits that have happened and are still, I think, going through the courts in some way. The tool that you're talking about is the
AFH.
The AFH, and we're not doing that according to this memo. We're not going to be doing this. Neither Littleton, I believe you only have 2 housing authorities in the county, and that's SMO.
South Metro Housing Options.
Thing. I don't know why they came up with that an acronym. That's terrible. And then the Inglewood Housing Authority. Since they're not going to be doing it, and nor do I think that they have the staff, the time, or the ability to, I'm confused why we would still need to have it in the contract with Arapahoe County, the affirmatively furthering fair housing. Why should it remain there, considering the current definition that is being placed on it by the feds?
Affirmatively furthering fair housing has been a requirement of HUD for decades. That's different from the AFFH and the toolkit that they tried to enact and has now been suspended. Our original plan in terms of doing the AFH was to partner with Englewood Housing Authority, who just changed their name to Innovative
Housing Concept,
and South Metro Housing Options. So the 3 of us together would work on it and submit one toolkit for the whole area. Obviously, that's suspended for right now because the need to do that. But that doesn't take away the fact that since 1968, we've all been under the requirements to ensure that there was no housing discrimination to affirmatively further fair housing. That's separate from this rule that they tried to put through and that this current administration has suspended. It's just that in the contract hasn't changed. It's been there for a long time.
Right, but the interpretation of what it means has changed.
Not the interpretation for this piece of the contract.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of
I
our
have one more
experts?
question on the contract. In addition, it says here, in addition, the parties here to agree and understand that the county may not provide funding for any activity support, that the city does not affirmatively further fair housing within its jurisdiction or impedes the county's action to comply with fair housing certification. So I am not arguing or not concerned about how it was originally put in. What I'm concerned about is how it's being implemented now, and that it's in here. It's under being contested because it's been taken out for now. It's being suspended because there are concerns about it. It's being suspended. We're neither doing the tool, and the affirmatively furthering fair housing has been suspended for now. So why is it still in the contract?
Because it's a requirement of HUD
to
be in the contract, because we are still required to affirmatively further fair housing, even if we're not doing that new tool and toolkit. We still cannot condone housing discrimination, and that doesn't matter if you're a city or a private landlord. You can't discriminate since 1968, since those rules were passed. So we have to do things that educate people. We sometimes use funding for things like the Denver Metro Fair Housing Group to be able to promote fair housing, to educate people. That has always been there, and that is how we will continue for the time being, just making information available to people and ensuring if somebody calls us and says, we're being, we think we're being discriminated against, that we're pointing them in the right direction, that we're not, if we put funding into a housing project, we're not going to put funding, whether it's county funding or wherever the funding comes from, we're not going to put funding into a project that is discriminatory. That's really what it looks at this point. So that's how it's been forever, basically, since.
And I appreciate your patience. I only have one more question. I think under the.
Could I, just for a minute, let's let Mayor Pro Tem Russell ask
It just follows up with what she just said. I would like to just complete my questioning, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I think we can all rest assured that the suspension of the affirmatively furthering fair housing is not going to create any discrimination, because we're still under the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Fair Housing Act, the Disabilities Act of 1999, Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, the Executive Order 11988, Section 109 of Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974, and I could keep reading, but I'm pretty sure that the suspension of the affirmatively furthering fair housing is not going to put us in any problem with creating that. So it has been suspended, and we're not, but that's not going to create a situation where we're discriminating against anybody. And so then I, again, would still have the problem with it remaining in the contract, but I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
So was it the tool that was instituted in 2011, was that the tool that was creating the lawsuits? Or why did they
It was 2014-15 when they actually created it, or it got through all of the federal process to be enacted. And then they set us on the course of when it would impact each of us, because everybody's on a different cycle for grants. So it didn't hit everybody at the same time.
Okay, and I mean, I just happened to see this article online. I think about the time that this came forward the first time. It was May 19th of 2018, where the headline says Ben Carson strikes a critical blow to Obama fair housing rule. So that is the rule that you're talking about that was suspended.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, and so that rule was creating more of the problems with the lawsuits, or do you?
That rule created fear in a lot of people in the way they interpreted it, that it was going to require, that we would plunk affordable housing down in the middle of any old neighborhood anywhere, regardless of what that neighborhood was. The reality is that, as I said before, you can't do that. It doesn't change the zoning. It doesn't change the codes. It would have had more impact on the ability of the Fair Housing Office of HUD to take action in our plans that we submit. So we have to submit plans, and we have to say what we're doing to affirmatively further fair housing. You know, we're going to put X amount of dollars toward affordable housing. We're going to do this. We're going to do resource fairs and promote fair housing, that sort of thing. But that doesn't. That FHEO no longer has the ability to control that unless while this is suspended.
Okay, thank you.
Right, is there a motion to approve 11A1, CB15 IGA with Arapahoe for CDBG and home program?
I'll move to approve 11A1.
I'll second that motion to approve 11A1.
All right, any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Russell?
I actually have some questions about the amount of money that is actually given by Arapahoe County or for the fiscal year 2018 that for Englewood residents is like $296,000. That actually goes to Englewood residents?
So there is $135,000 set aside that the city of Englewood can direct how it's used. And that includes the $115,000 that is used for E3, Energy Efficient Englewood, and the $20,000-ish that goes to Family Tree House of Hope. But then there are other funds that also come into Englewood. For example, we have funds with Arapahoe County Weatherization, and they project to serve 3 homes. And they work very closely with E3 to ensure that there's no duplication, but doing the services that they can do. We have a project with Englewood Housing Authority that's doing ADA improvements to their entrances. So that's going to impact 104 folks. We also have folks that are impacted by Doctors Care and the funds that we give to Doctors Care, in addition to Family Promise of Greater Denver that we provide funds to for both case management and for their homeless families as they're moving and transitioning into independent housing that hopefully they'll be able to sustain. We provide funding to TLC Meals on Wheels that serves a lot of Englewood residents, well over 100 residents. We provide funding to Project Angel Heart, which does the meals for terminally ill and special diets. And we also provide funding to Brothers Rehab, Housing Rehab, and Brothers Redevelopment. And so all of those funds do serve some Englewood residents, different amounts depending on the project. And those are funds that just come from the county funds, CDBG funds and home funds.
Okay, so can I ask specifically on the Englewood Housing Authority, the ADA improvements, are they planning to put in ADA access in front of the Simon Center? I mean, I just happened to be over there last weekend, and some of the handicapped people have trouble getting out to their cars right in front of the building because of the curb. Does that include that area?
I don't believe there was any curb work. I believe that what we're funding is the doors and putting the ADA accessible doors, because there have been problems with folks being unable to deal with the heavy doors. And so we did this on Orchard Place a couple of years ago, I believe it was. So it's just making the doors and the entry area more accessible.
Okay, and then just one other question. If we did not pass this CBDG ordinance tonight, would it impact the money that comes other than, I'm assuming this is for E3 energy?
If it were not passed, in all likelihood, Englewood would no longer receive the set aside of $135,000. And depending on what the overall impact is, because having all of the communities counting their population and all of that in the urban county is what determines how much funds we receive. So if Englewood was not included in that, and it impacted our overall funds, it could also impact these other programs that we've talked about. So we would have less funds to distribute. So fewer people would get help. And as I said, in all likelihood, although the final decision is always up to the Board of County Commissioners, Englewood would no longer receive a set-aside to use for their projects.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Barentine.
And I know that we're not approving a budget tonight. We're just approving the contract so that Arapahoe County can go ahead and go forward with this. I would respectfully point out the reason that the affirmatively furthering fair housing has been suspended is because of the lawsuits that were filed and the forcing on communities to put low-income housing in areas that they did not think was appropriate. That's exactly why it's been suspended, and that brings a great concern when somebody can have control over your jurisdiction. It is in the boundaries of within the boundaries of our jurisdiction that we're agreeing to do this. And where it's been pushed, that's what's caused the problem to go ahead and suspend it, rightfully so. But it is still in this contract, and I won't be able to support that. I do note that the county can charge a fee up to 20%. I know that the city receives a fee as well. So it would be nice, at least in the future, to get some information on exactly how that county fee portion of that money is being used for the Fed money coming in, because it's all our money just going to the federal government and then coming back here to go ahead and serve some purpose. But I think it's dangerous, since it's still in the contract, that if they decide to unsuspend that piece of the affirmatively furthering fair housing and then try to put this requirement on us to go ahead and do these tools for evaluation when we have some pretty severe issues with being accountable for the contracts we have currently for Section 8 and tax money that's being given, I think that would put kind of a burden on them. So I won't be supporting it, but I do really appreciate that you guys came down and answered those questions. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Martinez.
Thank you for coming tonight, and I'm very supportive of this. I've spoken with many residents that benefit from the programs that this funding allows. So I think it's really important that we continue this, and I'm very much in favor. So thank you.
Any other comments or discussion? All right, let's vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 5 ayes and 2 nays, the 2 nays being Mayor Pro Tem Russell and Councilmember Barentine.
Thank you. Moving on to, and thank you for coming tonight, all three of you. Moving on to 11B1, approval of a CB12 retail liquor tasting permit. Here to present is Deputy City Clerk Jackie McKinnon.
Good evening. So a bill for an ordinance establishing a liquor tasting permit passed first reading May 14th. Council Bill 12 is being brought forward tonight for final passage. Please let me know if you have any other questions on it.
Are there any questions? Could I hear a motion?
I move to approve item 11B1.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? Councilmember Barentine.
I listened to the presentation by the city clerk, and I think that they did a very good job. I appreciate the information provided by the one liquor store owner who looks like they might be interested in this. And then after I voted for it last time, I had some people talk to me, and one of the things they asked me to do was go to each of the liquor stores, and I did. And given some current issues going on, I've changed my mind, and I will no longer support it. I think that we have only 2, 1.5 that would actually kind of benefit from this, and I am concerned about it going into our community and the oversight issues with it, and just wanted to make that stated. Thank you for your work and your job on it. It's not that. I really would have liked to see a little bit more buy-in from the liquor store owners, and I really only see one that this would even be feasible to be doing it in, but so I can't support this.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
I will not be supporting this either, mostly for personal reasons, but also I do have concerns about the enforcement piece, and also I do have concerns about some other issues that we have going on in the city at this time, so I will not be supporting this either.
Any further comments? And let's vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 5 ayes and 2 nays, the 2 nays being Mayor Pro Tem Russell and Councilmember Barentine.
Thank you. So there is 11C1 is the resolution in motion for the retail liquor tasting permit fee. And presenting on this again is, sorry, I was confused here which one this was, the Deputy City Clerk, Jackie McKinnon.
Right, I'm still here. So Council Bill 12 just passed the reading tonight, the second reading. So now we're bringing forward a resolution to establish the fees for the retail liquor licensing fee, which it'll be $100 an application per year. So any questions?
Councilmember Barentine?
Is that for, I wasn't quite clear on how many that allows them to do for the $100?
It was 104, up to 104 they're allowed to do with what was passed with the ordinance.
So they're able to do 104 tastings for that $100?
Yes.
Okay, so
And
it's
I
a
did
permit
research.
not per event, but per
per license for the year.
Uh-huh.
And researching the cities surrounding, the average is about $107, and we looked at our cost, what it was.
Right. I'm not saying that it's not. I just didn't make. It wasn't clear to me. So they could do up to 104 for $100.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve 11C1.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on 11C1? Councilmember Barentine.
I hope that we review this when we do the fees, and maybe by that time we'll have a little bit more information on. I don't know how we're going to separate this out to see if it's the tasting particular that causes any problem or not. So I'm interested to see after this passes that after some fee passes that we get some kind of information back to see if this is really realistic and enough money. 104 of them seems quite a bit for only $100, but I appreciate you providing information from other communities. I just want to know whether it ends up being okay when we put it on the schedule for our budget for our fee analysis. Thanks.
Definitely.
Yep. Councilmember Cuesta.
Thank you. This is just from an educational purposes. So we've now passed the allowance to do it. And this might be a question for you, City Attorney Brown. If we didn't pass the fee permit, could people just do it without? Would they acquire the permit without paying a fee to accompany it?
We actually, within the ordinance, require the payment of a fee. So what you were doing was setting that fee. But no, under the ordinance, they have to pay whatever the licensing fee is that's set by City Council.
So if it did not pass right now, then what would take place?
Without a fee, you don't have enough information to issue the license that has been provided for within your ordinance.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 7 ayes.
All right, thank you. Moving on to general discussion, Mayor's choice. All right, I need some help on this. Handing me all kinds of things.
Mayor, before you start,
yes.
I think that there's some confusion about.
I'm not sure that it's working very well.
I think there's some confusion about what the standard is to make a motion to go into executive session. So to give you all confidence, and especially Pro Tem Mayor Russell, who did a beautiful job on presenting that matter, 246402 3B Roman numeral 1 of the state statute does not require that language to be within the motion. What it requires is an announcement. The city manager makes sure that there's an announcement on the front of every agenda, and every mayor has read an announcement clearly to the public, so the public knows exactly what you're going into executive session for. This council's process historically is to say "so moved," which incorporates the announcement that's been made by the mayor. And there's plenty of case law that says that that meets the requirements of state statute. So you had a legal motion last time, and Mayor Pro Tem does not need to worry about that. She did a beautiful job of that. And one of the things that I really have appreciated about the mayors in this city is what a great job they do of announcing exactly why we're going into executive session and stating the statute to which is being referenced. So as you start your first executive session request, I would request that you follow what Mayor Pro Tem Russell did and the previous mayor.
All right, thank you very much, and I appreciate that. I thought it had been done correctly when I heard it as well, so it's nice to hear that. So the executive session motion is to go into executive session for discussion of matters that may be subject to negotiations pursuant to CRS Section 24-6402. And then do I read the yellow one too? Is that why you gave this to me? For the purpose of yeah, there's a second one. Yeah, so for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and or instructing negotiations under CRS Section 24-6402 4E. So then I need a motion to go into executive session.
You asked for motion to go into executive session for those purposes.
For these purposes stated.
So moved.
Ms. Martinez made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Member Wink. All right. And we will move into executive session next door.
Discussion?
Oh, yeah, sorry, discussion. We have to. Thank you. Ms. Russell.
Can we get a little bit more information about the general topic that this is involving?
I'm not the person who's calling this executive session. Typically, you provide enough information in your announcement to let the public know what you're generally the area that you're going to discuss. But I think in this case, the concern is that if more information was provided than this, then it would potentially impact the fiduciary responsibility of the city manager.
Councilmember Cuesta.
Thank you. It is with great caution that I ever want to vote to go to executive session. I am really averse to taking things out of the light of the public. I'm not sure that there's enough information provided here either. And look, well, the first thing I'd like to start with is the statute was read as 24-6402. It's 24-6-402. And that would make a big difference for a citizen trying to Google that because it will not take you to the right place. So it's listed wrong on the agenda, and I believe it was just read into the record wrong. Secondly, this specifically relates to determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations and strategy for negotiations. We don't have any information what kind of negotiations these are, and I feel like there's kind of a mystery bag to these executive sessions that we don't get told what it is until we get back there. So we have to vote in advance to take something out of the light of public. And then on the back end, it seems that there's a protest action as well. But I'm still unclear, and this might be a question for the city attorney. If somebody gets to the executive session and they decide this was outside the boundaries of what would have qualified, and they protest after the fact, is there any action that comes from that? Will it ever be released, that information?
announcement that the mayor reads at the beginning of every executive session that you're in, if you listen all the way to the end of her, or previously his announcement, it begins with, "For the record, I am Mayor X. As required by the Open Meetings Law, this executive session is being electronically recorded. They are all recorded except for attorney-client. Also present, and everybody else in the room is listed. This is an executive session for the following purpose," and then that's listed, and again, the citation as understood by the law, and I understand that the regular citizen might not understand 24-6402, but that is the correct citation under the law. And then the mayor states, "I caution each participant to confine all discussion to the stated purpose of the executive session, and that no formal action may occur in the executive session. If at any point in the executive session any participant believes that the discussion is going outside the proper scope of the executive session, please interrupt the discussion and make an objection." And at that point, if any member feels that they can no longer participate because it's gone outside the scope, they make that statement and it's dealt with at that time.
Thank you. Yes. Now, and I would like to, on the finer point, according to LexisNexis, it's 24-6-402. That's out of the state's website. It links you directly to that. If you just search the 6402, it won't take you to where you're describing. It won't take you to the LexisNexis site on that rule. And I am still a little bit unclear because I thought that last time somebody did object and then said maybe, well, we shouldn't be having this conversation behind doors, and I'm not sure that that was immediately remedied. I feel like we kept kind of going down that road. And so I'm not going to be supporting this executive session this evening. I think it's just gotten way too cloudy of why we're going back there, and we don't know why we're going back there until we get back there. Thank you.
Councilmember Barentine.
I would have to share my fellow council members' concerns on this. I think that the executive sessions and having some conversations over the last month are really meant for council to go ahead and get information and from the attorney or the city manager or staff. And these meetings are not being called by the city council. They're being called by staff, and apparently nobody on council knows what they're about. And so that makes it very difficult without that information to know whether we're properly voting, to go outside of the eyes and ears of the public, the scrutiny of the public, and discuss something privately. And if I have more information, then I could make a reasonable decision on whether to go into executive session or not. But I would ask, is there any member of this council that knows why we are going into executive session? That being the case, then I do not feel comfortable voting on this and taking it out of the purview of the public eye, unless we have more information on why we're doing this.
City attorney or city manager, can you provide any further information that could be useful?
Mayor and council, I appreciate the reservations and concerns that have been raised. Part of my job requirement under the city charter is to bring forward issues of fiduciary concern for the city and the well-being of all of its residents. And again, I think the city attorney enunciated and articulated very clearly that should we bring up the subject of this particular negotiation, that might put the city in a position of not being able to negotiate on the particular matter that we're going to be talking to you about. Again, understanding there is a grave concern for transparency, which we agree with as well. But at the same time, if in fact we were to negotiate in a public setting, that would be deleterious or put the city in a position of harm where you wouldn't be able to exact a fair and equitable agreement for the city and the residents of the city. And so I understand the tension in which you're in, but at this point in time, it would be irresponsible for me or the city attorney or any other staff person to raise the issue that we would like to talk to the city council about. If we didn't have this executive session, we wouldn't be able to move forward with any negotiations or understanding whether or not the city council wants to negotiate at all. And so, again, it would put the city in a harmful position at this point in time to raise it in an open session.
I would like to weigh in on this. I have been in situations where we have had fiduciary responsibilities that have been brought up from an executive session from the city manager or the attorney where we have not known what it was, and we have gone into executive session. And in every case that I recall, it was very much needed, And it would have been something that we would have wanted after the fact to be able to say yes, and it was very much confirmed. So I would like to encourage everyone on this dais to think for a minute about what possibilities there could be. And we can certainly, when we go in, our city attorney has read the document that I will announce, and they're allowing us to say that we do not agree with being in there. We can always adjourn and come back out here. So that would be my recommendation. Councilmember Barentine.
I'm just concerned that there would be any negotiation going on that would this council and the public have no knowledge of, and that we would go back there. It is always of concern. So it is our responsibility to provide as much information as possible so that I can make a reasonable decision, and unfortunately I just don't have it.
Councilmember Cuesta?
And I think that kind of speaks to my earlier question. So all it takes is a single council member in an executive session to object to the direction it's moving, and that concludes it?
City Attorney, can you answer that? Because
no, I don't think that concludes it. I think that you open the discussion, and you can, as a body, end your executive session if as a body you believe that you're outside the scope of your discussion or outside the scope of what's allowed in executive session.
So then it would take 4 people, call it back there, to agree with you to discontinue down that path.
Yeah. Honestly, I think you probably, if you have a majority of people saying, I'm not comfortable with the scope of this executive session, the executive session is going to be ended. So a majority, it takes 2/3 to go into executive session, but coming out, I think if anybody's willing to raise that issue or feels that needs to be raised, that it would be a majority vote. So at this point, I've given you most of the legal that I can. I think it comes back to whether or not you want to have a executive session to be advised about a matter of potential negotiation.
Do you have a point of information then? Because I do think there's one more legal question I need to ask while you're giving your advice, and that is it possible for executive session material to be discussed, at least with the leadership that we have elected, to then make a decision of either bringing this forward for an executive session or not? Can't that be discussed with them, and then they could go ahead and make the decision if it should be on an executive session, so that at least somebody is aware of what's going on? And how?
In clarity, are you talking about the Mayor Pro Tem?
By leadership, that's what I meant, yes.
Okay, just want to
by
make
our
sure.
elected leadership for this council.
I don't see any law against it.
Okay, because I think that's what's been done before, because you obviously had somebody on council that would know what was going on, so this has just been pretty irregular. So I would suggest that we postpone it until we can go ahead and have that information, but I don't have enough information to vote on it tonight.
I'd like to weigh in again. I think that tonight we're at a point of deciding whether or not we're going to trust our city manager in his need for this meeting. I would like to see us give him that honor and go through with it. And if we are to get in there and we have decided that it is not under what we should be talking about, that we then decide that as a group. And rather than to delay things that I believe our city manager would not bring to us without something. Council member, I don't know if you were up there for a while and I just missed you. My iPad was, okay, Mr. Cuesta.
Thank you. And I'm happy to take the vote now, but this certainly is not a vote on my trust or mistrust of City Manager Keck. It's whether or not we go to executive session, take this out of the view of the public with what I consider to be nebulous information we've been given. Thank you.
Councilmember Martinez.
Thank you. I just want to say, in all the executive sessions I've been a part of, this is basically the amount of information we have, and we go in there, and then we get the information that we need. And every time I've been a part of it, it has been for reasons that make sense to have an executive session. So I am in favor of going to see what we're going to talk about. If the council decides at that point it's not appropriate, then we come back out.
Councilmember Wink.
Thank you.
I also feel it's rational and logical to at least vote to go in and at least listen to what our city manager has for us at that time. If the body wants to make a different decision, I think there's no harm there. So I'll be deciding on that, or voting on that.
Right. No more comments, or is there Mayor Pro Tem Russell?
I cannot support it with the lack of information either, and it has nothing to do with a lack of trust or not trust. I just think it is wise for someone to know ahead of time, and so I will not be supporting it.
Manager Keck, can I ask if there is a timing issue on this? We will be 2 weeks away from an executive session. Will this affect us deleteriously if we do delay?
It would not. It would not impact us in such a manner. So if you wanted to do a suggested this evening to talk to you and the Mayor Pro Tem, I'm happy to do so. Again, the issue is you wouldn't be bound by the executive session rules of not sharing that with the public until such time as the council has decided whether or not that's permissible or not. But at some point in time, the public would be and will be aware of this issue should the council decide to move forward with negotiations.
And then City Attorney Brown, do we have to have a 5 vote on this then? Is that 2/3 or is it 4?
Is it 2/3? I think 2/3 is 5.
Okay. So would anyone like to amend the executive session motion to delay and second it? Or would you like to vote and then do that?
I would like to just vote on the executive session and then we can move forward.
Yes or no? Okay. Who else? Councilmember Cuesta?
It makes me even more curious that the public's going to know eventually, but they can't know now. And that gives me even more pause on going forward with this. Truth be told, I feel like we're teasing this now at this point that, there was something that we went to executive session last time that was already out on Facebook and then was in a newspaper 3 days later. And so sometimes I wonder if we do these because we're just not comfortable having the conversation in public now, or if there's actual legal necessity of fiduciary responsibility, as has been alluded to here. I'm ready to vote.
Is that a question in particular to someone or simply a statement?
Excuse me, that was a statement.
I was wondering if you're asking the manager that or not. Okay.
I didn't have a question.
All right, so let's vote to go into executive session or not.
All votes been cast. Let the record show 4 ayes and 3 nays. The 3 nays being Mayor Pro Tem Russell, Councilmember Barentine, and Councilmember Cuesta.
All right, it did not pass, so would anyone like to entertain a motion to delay this to 2 weeks from now, or do we not need to do that?
I don't think we need to.
We don't need to do that, okay.
Can we just request that our leadership go and find out and
Sure, we will do that.
Thank you.
Further mayor's choice. There are a number of things I think you all received regarding the Chamber of Commerce. There is a golf tournament going on this week, so if anybody wants to go there by 7 in the morning and greet them and cheer them along, please do so. There is also a public neighborhood meeting regarding the Kmart property, which is at 6 o'clock, right? Manager Keck, where is that again?
I'm not exactly sure where the meeting is, but here it is at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And again, this is not a city meeting. This
is a neighborhood meeting
by the developer themselves.
Right. I know that a number of people have asked me about it, and so it's in the notice that was put out for that within a 1,000-foot radius around that property. Lots of people have been asking who gets to go and why, and that's great. I'm thankful that you brought that up because it is not a city meeting. It's a requirement of the developer to have a neighborhood meeting to open the conversation about what they might want to be doing. Right. And welcome to Councilmember Sierra again. It's great to have a full team up here, and I look forward to working with everyone. That's all I have for now. Councilmember Cuesta?
Thank you. I believe it's at the Kmart. I'm nearly certain is where the meeting is held for the redevelopment of the Kmart is inside that building.
In the building?
Yes. I worked at that Kmart in high school, and I haven't been in there in many, many years, so I'm looking forward to revisiting, and we'll see what kind of shape it's in at this point. But I'm looking forward to that meeting. I plan on seeing many constituents out there. So a very warm welcome to Councilmember Sierra. Very happy to have you here, and congrats all down the line to everybody that took positions tonight. The only other thing that comes to mind is we had a study session on homelessness maybe 3-4 weeks ago now, right in that proximity, and I'm hoping that's an issue that we pick up again and that it doesn't just, kind of slip off the radar. I think in these warmer months, it isn't quite as pressing as in the colder months where it kind of raises to the surface a bit more, and that is what I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Barentine.
I appreciate everybody coming out, and I certainly appreciate all of the discussion that's happened here tonight as well. I think it's gone very well. Congratulations, Mr. Sierra, Councilmember Sierra. Look forward to working with you, and I thought the city put on a nice event for your swearing in, so that was nice. I share your concern that we not let this homeless issue drop. As I brought up last study session about the man who died in the trash can in front of King Supers, and then I've gone and visited some businesses along downtown where there's been some other arrests. But we were informed that we needed to have a no camping ordinance in order to go ahead and move forward, and that we were lacking, the enforcement was lacking because we don't have enough ordinances. And several of the businesses pointed out to me that we have a notice posted on the east side of the Paseo on Broadway that says there's no camping. The city of Inglewood, it's illegal. Also, theft of flowers is apparently illegal, too. So I took some pictures of that notice because I was a little confused how we could go ahead and be on top of, we can have that issue resolved for the Paseo, but we can't for the Platte. So I hope that that's included in the discussions that we have. I think there was some collaboration with some businesses, the bike store, and when they put the garden in there. So also somebody apparently thought it was funny to glue little mice all over the little arbor. I guess it's a huge arbor that's there. And so they also pointed out to look up, and there's mice and little plastic ones, not real ones, not like but that would be gross. But I don't know whether it was somebody's odd artistic expression, but it would be nice if they would be taken down. I don't know what statement somebody was trying to make. So if we could take a look at that notice that was posted by the city of Inglewood about camping and no skateboarding and stuff, and try to get our hands on exactly where we're at. Do we need an ordinance, or do we already have a way to enforce a no camping? It would be informative. Also, there were a few more arrests along Broadway for homeless, so it's gotten to a situation that's causing some distress. Both for the homeless are not safe, and we also have concerns still where we have citizens that are concerned as well. I think that's it. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Wink.
Thank you, Mayor Olson. I want to say that I think Tony Arnoldi is still in need of volunteers for the race/walk for fallen police officer Jeremy Bittner. It's the race will be held at Saturday, June 16, so it's coming up upon us, starting at 6 a.m. You can contact Tony directly if you'd like to volunteer for a position or register and race, or walk, for that matter. So it will be at Cornerstone Park, Bellevue, Saturday, June 16. That's all I had today.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Russell. I thought I'd let our last member go last tonight.
Okay, I have nothing, but I want to welcome Councilmember Sierra on board, and I'm looking forward to working with you, and congratulations to Mayor Olson. I'm looking forward to working with you as well. And so just hope everyone has a great week. Thank you all for coming out.
Thank you, Councilmember Martinez.
I would echo those sentiments. Thank you for sharing your evening with us, everybody, and congratulations to Mayor Olson, and congratulations again to our Mayor Pro Tem, Russell, and congratulations to our new council member. We're really excited to have you and looking forward to working together.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sierra.
Everyone, thank you very much for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for the warm welcome. Councilman Cuesta, I have no idea how you make it through a suit each time at these meetings. But in terms of the, I plan to pick up where Mayor Jefferson left off. I do plan on having a monthly meeting with District 1. I don't have email addresses, so I know I just got set up with an email address from the city, so if anybody's listening, feel free to email me your contact information. I plan to set up an email distribution list and let you know about times and location on where we would meet, but I do plan on keeping with that tradition, so thank you very much.
Thank you. City Manager's report.
Again, congratulations, Councilmember Sierra. Look forward to working with you, Mayor Olson. And I just want to say thanks to Mayor Pro Tem Russell. I think that it's been really nice getting to work with you over the last 6 months, and I felt you did an admirable job and wanted to enunciate that publicly. That's all I have for you this evening, Council.
Thank you. City Attorney's report.
I'd like to echo City Manager's statements. I have really enjoyed working with Mayor Pro Tem Russell, and I look forward to working with you more in the future as Mayor Pro Tem. Welcome to both Councilmember Sierra, and congratulations, Mayor Olson.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, and this meeting is adjourned.
Oh, I don't plan on wearing a suit.